Hi, I'm Eclipse Sky and this is Necromancer Basics. I'm going to give you a rundown of all the major components to Necromancer builds so you can make your own. What about meta, you ask? Well, I'm not particularly a fan of meta builds. You can find any old build on a site that someone else made that may or may not work for what you're trying to do. Meta builds are designed for optimal circumstances. All 5 players on your team need to be running optimal builds and optimal equipment for meta builds to work best. Sometimes you're not in that situation and you need to design a build that works for what you're doing. I'm here to help with that. Play smart and use all your tools to your advantage. So that said, let's begin. The first video in my Necromancer Basics series is going to cover literally that, Necromancer mechanics and weapon skills. You have a lot of really cool stuff at your disposal as a death magic master. One thing in particular Necros do really well is tolerate conditions. Why? Because conditions put on you as the Necro, you can just throw them back at your target. You've got tons of skills available to you to literally toss conditions that are on yourself onto what you're fighting. Dagger offhand, staff 4, various utility skills, you name it. Necros are amazing at dealing with condies. Another cool mechanic is your Shroud. Whether you're playing Reaper or Scourge, Shroud skills are awesome for both offensive and defensive play. Vitality affects how much Shroud you have to work with, so depending on how squishy you feel, if you're using it defensively, you may want to invest in a little Vitality to buffer your Shroud. Now, when it comes to elite specs, the question is, which one do I use, when, and why? Here's my thoughts on this. Reaper excels at DPS and power. You have traits and weapons that lean toward DPS in the Reaper line that go with damage dealing in my opinion. Scourge, on the other hand, has access to barriers and condition damage through burning that is excellent support. If you ask me, I'd probably say use Reaper for DPS builds and Scourge for Condi or healing and support. So, mechanics aside, let's take a look at what weapons do what. I'm going to pull up my hero build here and show you. So, we've got a choice of Axe, Dagger, Dagger offhand, Staff, Scepter, Focus, and Warhorn for base Necromancer. Elite specs Reaper and Scourge add Greatsword and Torch to the lineup. Going down this list, Axe is one of my favorites. I like Axe because it gives you a little bit of range while doing decent damage. It's also good at generating life force for your Shroud. Dagger is melee. This usually accompanies power builds and is very close ranged. You can use this second skill to leech life back to yourself from a target. Even cooler, Dagger offhand is excellent condition transfer skills. This skill 4 here. You can use it to send conditions from yourself to a target. Going down to Scepter. Scepter is mainly a condition weapon. It inflicts bleeding and torment when used. Excellent weapon for Condi builds. Used in synergy with the Curses trait line, it can dish out major Condi damage. Staff is a special kind of weapon. It doesn't straight up damage from auto attacks, but you do get these cool marks that you can put on the ground, and as players or targets walk across the marks, it triggers them. And as a side note, skill 4 here is another condition transfer from you to a target. Focus is a boon strip weapon. Skill 5 on Focus is great for removing boons from targets. Definitely has its uses. Warhorn down here has a skill that grants swiftness, which is great for the otherwise pretty slow moving Necromancer. You don't have a whole lot of speed skills as a Necromancer. So Warhorn skill 5 is pretty good for giving you some swiftness. But do keep in mind that if the Locust Swarm hits mobs, it will put you in combat. You can also use skill 4 on the Warhorn for a little bit of CC if you are careful. Then we have the 2 elite weapons for the elite specializations. That would be Greatsword and Torch. Greatsword gives you a cleave, a big damage hit on skill 2. Boon Strip on skill 4 and a couple of little bit of break bar skills on those 2. Torch, on the other hand, gives you a knockdown CC skill here, and some burning and life force generation here on this one. Remember though, you can only use torch if you're a scourge. You can only use greatsword if you're a reaper. So those two are the only used with the elite spec for Necromancer. And that covers it pretty well for what I wanted to get to in this video. Stay tuned for my next episode in Necromancer Basics. I'll be covering slot skills, utilities, and elite skills. Thanks for watching. I'm Eclipse Sky. Catch me next time.